Welcome back to the IBOP, the podcast for IB students by IB students. And today, you must be wondering, hey, this isn't the boss man's voice. Who is this? Well, it's me, the co-host, So, at your service. I am here to provide y'all with a new episode. This is gonna be a minisode, and I think it's gonna be divided into 2 episodes. But in this one, everybody, we will be listening to 2 very interesting interviews by some of our teachers at the IB. I interviewed 2 teachers at our school. One is Jeanette, and she is a very lovely teacher. Personally, I have her in history, and she is very, very great. She gives us, the bossman can vouch for me on this as well. She gives us treats and sweets during Monday evening lessons because they're so long and they're at the very end of the day from like 3 something to 5. So because they're so long, she allows us to drink coffee and also bring like desserts and stuff. And I think that is amazing. She will be the first interview of today's mini episode. I hope you will enjoy it, and I'll see you once you've heard the interview. Hello, what's your name?
I'm Jeanette.
And what do you teach in the IB course?
In the IB, I teach Swedish and history. Within the DP, I teach Langlit at the moment. I've also taught literature many times, and I teach history.
That's great. That's fantastic. What initially brought you to the IB, and how long have you been teaching?
Well, I've been teaching for a very long time, more than 20 years. Here in school, and I've been for about 15 years. I started off as a Swedish teacher only. When I came here, I've been here twice actually. So when I came here the first time, I just worked for about 30%. Because I had a small child at home. So The very first course, it was just one course that I taught, and that was the very first time I've ever heard about the IB program. But I really liked it. And then when I had the opportunity to come back and work full time, I was really glad to do so.
That's really nice. And what did you teach the first year? Like, did you teach more Swedish or
the first couple of years I only taught Swedish. The courses were a little bit different then, but from the beginning I taught literature, but there have been some changes within the courses throughout the years. So, but mainly literature, and then what was then called Swedish 2A. Well, it's another story. It's something that we don't have today, but still Swedish.
The second question that I have is, if you've taught any other subjects besides those 2, like if you've ever needed to either substitute, or if you just had 1 year where you taught a different kind of Swedish, or like
I started off my first job as a teacher. I started in year 6 to 9, and then you are basically a social science teacher. So I taught religion and social studies and geography and things like that. But I was there for a very short time, and I really wanted to come to the upper secondary school. And I feel that I can do better with students that are a little bit older.
And
I had more history than Swedish, but the thing is that I really enjoy teaching literature. And truthfully, I am not as keen on teaching the other parts of this curriculum when it comes to Swedish. So it's the literature that I really love. Yeah. So when I first came here, that was the opportunity to teach literature. So I really love that. And for a couple of years, I was only teaching Swedish. But then the opportunity arose because I was also a little bit hesitant about my English. So I didn't know if I were to start teaching history then in English, how comfortable that would make me feel. So I hesitated for a while, And then my boss said, well, Jeanette, you can do this. Of course you can. And then I tried it out, and it felt a little bit awkward in the beginning, but now I don't think that much about it. No.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy teaching history as well. Especially in the DP. If I'm truthful, not as much in year one because of the course, not the students or anything, but the course.
Yeah, no, because I have you in history, and I
Yeah.
experienced that you teach like the material quite nicely, and you have a nice layout compared to some teachers. So
Thank you.
yeah, and since I don't have you in Swedish, I can't really know what
No.
you're like, but I know you from history, so that's good.
Yeah.
Question 3 is, if they taught at other schools, could you compare being an IB teacher to any other teaching experiences you've had?
Yeah.
Is it any different when you taught the
National programs?
yeah, the
Yes. That's why I'm still here. Because I really enjoy the IB program. I like the idea of it. I really like how the courses are set up, that we are to have you as students for 2 years. I really like the idea that it is very much set what we are to teach you, more in history than in literature, because in literature we choose basically the books, the things that we're going to teach. But I also like the idea that I think that we can take much more time for each topic within the subject. We don't need to rush through things. And also the idea that I do not set your final grades. So truly think, and my experience is that the connection between student and teacher is much nicer within the IB than in the national programs, where you are the one setting the grade towards the end, and that makes something with the relationship between teacher and student. So I truly enjoy being a teacher in the IB program.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's nicer for the students as well, knowing that they can ask the teacher and not feel like they will be judged for whatever grades they had received previously.
Yeah.
So I think that's nice. Question 4. Comment on the new syllabus and rate it on a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay, the new syllabus, it depends on the subject. They do not come all together, but I don't know if I'm to say this, but I am a little bit, but yes, my students know that. In Swedish, the Langlit course, I do have some question marks about some parts of the tests, or some tests, and that's the internal assessment, the oral, because I don't think that it does not necessarily mean that the most competent students get scores the highest, but so I really hope that they will change that in the future, but as of yet I haven't seen any new syllabuses. When it comes to history, I have not yet experienced any change in the syllabus, so I don't know, but I think that it is a little bit too cramped. I think it's a little bit too much considering the time that we have. That is my opinion.
Yeah. Those are some good comments. But if you were to rate the syllabus of history, at least, would you rate it 10, 7?
Oh, it depends on what the scale means, but I would say it's more about the burden. It's more about there's so much, so that draws it down a little bit. I think it's a good thing that we can choose what topics to study, so that's a good thing. So perhaps a 7 or 8.
Yeah, I think that is valid. It is a very complex course. There's a lot to cover, but
yes,
it is also very interesting. And for question 5, can you give some general comments on the students? Is there anything that you would like to point out? Any specific classes or any memorable class that you've taught?
The thing is that I tend to be in the present, and I always enjoy my students that I have now, and I always say the same things. And now I'm going to be very, very honest. In year one, sometimes I feel that a student are a little bit too unaware of what we ask of them. Then you need to teach, and the relationship with the students are a little bit different. But then when you got to know them and you have them in year 2 and 3 in the diploma program, you always see the same development, and that makes it so much fun being a teacher. So it's not a lie that every year when I say goodbye to the students graduating, I truly will miss them, because I've had the privilege of being on this journey with them, and to see them grow, to see the students develop and follow them through these 3 years. That's really a privilege. So I can't say that a certain year that I remember those more. Might be so when it comes to different things that happened, or certain students and their personal development and their personal stories. But overall, I really, really like being a teacher.
Yeah, that is nice. No, because I experienced that year 1 of history was very messy. There was a lot going on.
Yes.
And we kind of just skimmed through quite a few events in history.
Yeah. Yes.
Meanwhile, the actual DP history course is a lot more contextual. There's a lot more going on, but it's not very spread out. No. And you spend more time studying it. And I like that.
Yeah, I like that better too. And that has been a discussion also, and that is a discussion, what are we to do with the history course in year 1, because that's the national course, and it's not really, in many cases, it's not really suitable for the IB, both when it comes to preparation for the DP history, but also students coming from all over, from so many different backgrounds, and then give them this very shallow overview history course. And it's hard to make the course make sense to everyone. So I agree with you there that the history in year 1 is tricky, and it's not as enjoyable as the deep history.
Yeah, it is a bit tricky, and I think it also makes it a bit harder to make the choices, because a lot of the subjects in year 1 are very just broad.
Yes.
You don't talk about singular things that much. You just kind of go over it, and then you have an overview. And then when you make your choices, you only have that to base it on. Yes. Because the actual DP course is nothing like the first year. No. We went over the civil rights movement, apartheid. We didn't talk about that in the first year.
No, that's true.
That is a good thing in some way as well. Yeah.
But I think that we always have this discussion in the IB team, what to do with the year 1, as I told, the total year 1, because we have a lot of math, we have a lot of history because it's a national course. You have a lot of Swedish, so the Swedish 1 students get a national grade, but the English, you also have a lot of English, but you don't get a national grade in English. So they're kind of a mixture of so many different things. In math, you have a lot of maths, but you don't get a national grade in that. So I think that this is an ongoing discussion that we have. And I love for you as students to give us your input on how you perceive and understand the year 1 and and what you now described, that there is a huge step from year 1 to year 2. And it's not really compatible, perhaps, because there are quite a lot of differences, as you pointed out.
Yeah. But moving on from that and on to the final question, which is question 6. It's just any general comments that you have on the IB as a whole. Could be the different subjects, or the idea of picking 6 subjects and then some of them being higher levels. Why not just make them all a higher level?
Yeah.
I don't know. just interesting stuff like that.
I haven't thought about that idea, to have all of them on higher level. But what I mostly think about is that I as a teacher and we as within the IB team, sometimes it's hard for us to see it from the student's point of view when it comes to workload, when it comes to how to cope. But what we have seen, my experience is that many students have a hard time to organize their studies and to fulfill the different things that we ask them to do. And that is something that I am thinking about. So I really think that we need to see what we can do to perhaps make the IB program here at Katedralskolan at least more, I don't know, not easier, because it's not easy in that way, but make it more into one whole, to see the whole, have a holistic view on the program. And that is hard because you as students pick different subjects, you have different combinations, but still I believe that the long work days for you as students, and also for us as teachers, and how seldom we meet during other times than during lesson time. Yeah. So I would like to have a more holistic over the...
we are pretty good on time, but I am going to add one more thing.
Okay.
And it's the fact that I think that sometimes the subjects that you pick, like the 6, well, not 6, because TOK, but the subjects that you have, they sometimes don't make sense, because you can't pick all 3 sciences to study medicine. No. And I think that's just for Sweden and not necessarily other countries.
It's true.
Which is just an interesting thought I had, because why wouldn't they make it possible in Sweden, just like in other IB programs in other countries?
But I think that the IB program, in other countries, if you study medicine, for example, you just need 2 of the natural sciences. You don't need all 3 as here in Sweden. So I think that as the systems above, outside the IB, that is not compatible when it comes to university studies. So I think that is why. So I don't know. I don't think that we can do anything about it, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I completely forgot about that, because you do need you don't need just chemistry and bio to sometimes travel and study somewhere else.
Yes, but here in Sweden you need all 3, and that is it's not totally, it's international, but it's not totally compatible with the university system that we have here in Sweden.
Okay, that was a bit silly of me.
No,
I should have remembered it. But thank you for your time. This has been a pleasure. And do you have anything else you want to say before we round off?
Not really, but IB is fun. It ought to be. And even though it's hard work, it's worthwhile. Yeah. It's worthwhile. Yeah.
I think it is fun, because I've met some of the best people in the IB, at least, which makes it more fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. Take care of your friends and have fun during your high school years. Absolutely.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you.
Brief intermission between the interviews. That was a nice interview. I think talking to Jeanette was very nice, because she is such a down-to-earth teacher, and she genuinely had some very interesting things to inquire about the IB and about the students and her personal experiences as a teacher. I found it very nice to talk to her. And it was very easy to interview her as well, because she had so much to say, and it definitely looked like she was enjoying the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. But now we have a second interview with the principal of the school. His name is Björn, and he has been a teacher in the past as well. But now he's the principal of the IB program at our school. So I hope you enjoy his interview as well. On to the second interview. Please enjoy that one as well. I am saying that too much, but just the boss doesn't feed me otherwise. Just please enjoy. Alright, so please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Björn Svartling. I'm 65 years old. I worked in school in one capacity already since 1983. I'm married. I have a family of 4 boys who are 23 to 30 now, so they're not living at home anymore.
Yeah. All right. And so we are gonna have 6 questions today. Very basic ones. And the first one is, what brought you to the IB and how long have you been teaching?
Yeah. No, I started teaching in 1983, but that was mainly in Swedish programs. And then 1988 I started in IB, and I found the program very, very interesting from the start. And the main factor was that I felt that this thing with external examination was important, because the students were given a fair grade and the relation to the teacher didn't matter, and you couldn't be it didn't matter where you went to school, you were treated in the same way. But it's also quite a big responsibility, because you have to teach the whole course, and it has to be taught well, because you can't take any factors into account, because you don't set the grades. In the Swedish program, if you know, for instance, that, well, we didn't have much time for that particular topic, then you don't have to take that as part of the grading, perhaps. You have a bit more leeway. So it's interesting, but also quite a big responsibility. So that's why I started teaching there. And then I did teaching more or less until 2010, and then I haven't taught so much after that. But I would like to. I mean, I really like teaching, so the ideal job for me would be to be having the opportunity to, say, teach one class, and then do admin work for the most. But I really like also to be out and visit lessons. That's my main priority if there is time. I mean, there can't be anything more important for a school than the teaching bit.
Yeah. No, that's pretty nice. And because right now you're the principal of the IB program. Like what is the job like? Like, what do you get to? Do you get to decide things a lot? My main responsibility is for the staff, because I'm the line manager, so I have to take care of everything having to do with them. Could include, recruiting new teachers, etc. But of course, I'm also responsible for the student. And what I like in my job is that most of what's going to happen in the day I don't know about. I mean, I have meetings that I participate in and lead, but I also have very much an open door policy that if students want to come and see me, they can do so. And therefore the job doesn't get boring at all. I mean, it's fun, and you don't know what's going to happen. And some things you can solve, other things are more difficult to solve. But I feel very, very privileged. That hasn't happened once in my working life, that I don't want to go to work. And I really enjoy what I'm doing. Yeah, that is a very good thing. And let's move on to the second one now. Have you taught any other subjects besides, and have you enjoyed them more than? Well, this one is a bit tricky to answer, I think, because it's about teaching subjects currently.
Yeah.
But if we were to bend it a bit, because you've taught chemistry, physics, math. Yeah,
mainly maths.
Mainly maths. Okay, has one been more fun in a way?
Yeah, I mean it's. I'm more personally interested in maths, and I enjoy it a lot. And I mean, a good time for me is when Marit comes into my office and wants to talk maths with me. But I also like the sciences, because you have the lab bit, the practical bit. Because that's a really good opportunity to get to know the students, talk to them, see what they are getting on with. And that element you don't have in maths. I mean, it's maybe I would say easier to make science lessons more varied. If you don't watch it, the maths lesson can become very similar to each other. I mean, the teacher goes through something, and then it's a few minutes for question, and you do your work, and then every lesson would look like that.
Yeah.
So But there are different ways you can work in maths also to get a bit more variety.
Yes, of course. I don't know what to say. Because for me, math is not my favorite subject, but I do like it when I feel like I understand things.
That's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it either confirms that you're successful, or it could also be a downward spiral. Because I mean, you do something and then you can immediately check if it's correct or not. So it's, I mean, if you write an essay, for instance, you can feel that it did go well even if it didn't. Because when you get it back, well, then you realize, oh, I missed that point or that point. Yeah. But when you're doing it, you probably feel quite okay with what you're doing. In maths, if you just leave a question, then you know that you can't get any points for it.
Yeah. I think that is a valid point, and like personally, since we don't really like do any writing in math, it becomes like a subject where you're either good at it or you're not good at it, and that's why I think some students enjoy and don't enjoy it. But
do you think that you sort of have to have a special talent for maths to be good at it?
I don't think that's the case, but I do feel like if you don't have the basic knowledge, then it can be very hard to build from it by adding more complex things.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the basic understanding, then everything from that becomes very difficult.
No, I mean, what I'm after is that I think it's many students think that you have to have a talent for it, but it's very much a matter of practice. I mean, even students and teachers who are good at it have spent a lot of time on it as well. And in a way, there's sort of no shortcuts. You have to put in the hours. But as you say, if you haven't done that earlier on and sort of don't know the basic algebra, then it becomes really, really difficult. When you come to the stage you're at now.
And it's also like very time consuming. When you have to study a lot of things, that can also be a difficult part in it.
But when I was your age, I went to school. I'm pretty lazy actually, and I liked maths because I didn't have to do that much work. Because if I understood the concept, then I could manage questions having to do with that concept. But say in other subjects like civics or history or biology, then I really you don't, unless you learn what a concept means, you don't, or a word means, you can't just understand it. So there's no shortcuts for me there.
I wish that I could also like not spend as much time studying math, but for me it's like I just need to put in a lot of hours into it to understand something. Yeah. But less about math, and let's move on to question 3, which is, if they taught at other schools, could you compare being an IB teacher to any other teaching experience you've had before?
Yes, I mean, I sort of talked about that in the beginning, that the grading is different. I mean, I worked a lot in the Swedish program. I worked at secondary school and upper secondary school. So, I mean, I basically taught students from 13 up to 20 or something like that. So I've done a lot of other things than just the IB. But I like the idea with external grades. And you know what it's like. It's more and more debate about this now. And Handelshögskolan, I think, or KTH, they are only going to allow students to apply if they have done högskoleprovet and got 1.25 at least on that. Okay. And the reason for that is that they don't trust the Swedish grades. They have experienced that students have come with very good grades but hasn't matched their knowledge. And that's what I like with IB. But I also like the fact that the relation to the student is different, that you work together with the student. I mean, if you have done badly in a test, well, when I went to school, I was going to sort of try to hide it somehow, that I didn't understand, because I thought that it would affect my grade. But in IB, if you've done badly in the test, I mean, it's extremely important that you talk to the teacher about how you can do better next time. It's what you call formative assessment, that as opposed to summative assessment. Summative assessment is when you get your grade. But formative assessments, that's what you learn from. And the IB is more or less entirely formative assessment
Yeah.
until you come to your finals. So basically you practice and practice and practice, and then it's your finals.
Yeah, I think that is a very good feature of the IB. I think a lot of students appreciate that because you feel like you can grow and mature through the process.
Yeah. And I mean, you do as well. I mean, it's stunning how much happens. I mean, it is an age where you develop a lot anyway, but it's a lot of, you mature, and the idea with the IB program is that you should both develop academically, but also personally. And that's why we have CAS, for instance.
Yeah.
That's part of that.
Yeah, I think CAS is also a good feature. Like, it kind of almost, personally, I am also a bit of a lazy person, so when I'm not studying, I like to just relax and take it easy in my bed, but CAS actually makes me feel inclined to do something, and like
a reflection or two.
yeah, maybe like go downstairs and bake something
Yeah.
and then write about that.
Yeah.
So I don't find it as a stressful factor because it's so like personal. You can modify it in any way that works for you. It's not difficult in my eyes.
No.
So I like it. Question 4 is comment on the new syllabus and rate it on a scale of 1 to 10.
On the new syllabus?
Yes.
Aha. Well, I mean, if I think of the maths syllabus, that has undergone drastic changes. It used to be maths higher, maths standard level, and maths studies. And now, it's AA higher level, AA standard level, and AI standard level, but it's also an AI higher level.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like in languages that you have lit and langlit. Now we have AA and AI. So I think that's good. And I think actually it's really, really good that they do review the syllabus all in all. I mean, that there actually are changes and that it's part of the system, that every 5th year it undergoes a review process.
Yeah. I must ask, why is it that there is no math AI higher level?
Well, we have offered the courses that were similar to the old ones that was before the change, and very, very few schools offer this AI higher level for some reason. I don't know why exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And question 5 is just very general. Some comments on the students, like what do you feel the students are like, and maybe there's perhaps a class that you used to teach that was memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I've only worked. This is my 6th year here, so I mean I've first worked for 35 years in one school, and now I'm my 6th year here. So I mean therefore it's quite easy to compare the two schools. But what I really like with CAT is that I feel that the students can be themselves. It's a great variety in terms of background, interest, and so on. And it partly reflects the differences in programs that we have. Some Natur, IB, Humanistiskt program, Barn och fritid, language introduction. And this thing that students feel, if you just say the wide variety of student-driven clubs there are, I mean, it reflects very much how different people are in the student body. And I also feel that as I said, that students really feel that they can be themselves. When I stand in the morning and greet students, I often reflect on just how different people dress and look, and probably have many different interests they have, and so on. And I mean, if you talk about the IB classes, I would say that I have always liked the students and the classes that I've met here at CAT, but it's sort of a process. When you're in year 1, well, then I've only had contact with some students, there's very few that I know. But when you come to year 3, I get to know the students better, and the more you get to know people, the more you like them as well. So that's an important part of the whole thing. And I have a boarding school background, and well, I taught at a boarding school, and for me it's very natural also to keep in contact with students after they left school. It's interesting to hear what happens. I mean, when you are here, I mean, we very much know what's happening, but when you leave, we are very keen to know what's happened. And sometimes it's what you expect, and sometimes people can take very unexpected career choices. But your class I like very, very much. I think it's a fantastic group of people, really.
Yeah, that is very sweet. I really like my classmates. I think they're great.
Yeah.
And I personally find that the IB has made me meet so many very nice people. And high school in general just is very different from middle school.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to necessarily be the IB program itself, but I think that people just, they're a bit more mature and nicer. And
no, I mean, you also, that since you chose a more clear program, you come with people who are more like you are to an extent. I mean, if you think of someone who's very interested in art or so, they might seem like a very odd figure in a normal 9th grade. There are not so many of them there. But then if they apply for a program of that kind, like Estetiska gymnasiet or something like that, well, then they will be surrounded by students who are exactly like they are.
yeah, that is a very nice thing. And finally, question 6, which is just comments on the IB as a whole, which we have kind of discussed a lot now. But
no, but I would not I would never change program. I mean, whatever I was offered, I would continue to work with IB. Whatever, if it would include, I don't know what, being teaching the king's grandchildren or anything like that, it would be out of question. I mean, I wouldn't change the IB program for any other program. I really strongly like it. Both the philosophy, the way it's done, the students, and the teachers. I mean, the teachers who are teaching in the IB program are very dedicated. They could just as well be in a Swedish program, most of them. And that would probably be easier for them as well. But they have taken a strong point that they do want to teach it because they like it as well. So
yeah, no, I find that the teachers are they're very easy to reach. Like if you message them on Teams, and they're very helpful. So I do agree with those things you mentioned. Yeah, well, then that's it.
well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add just before we round off?
Well, I would say that you performed this interview very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, in the sense that you're listening, that I would like to add.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot, and I appreciate your time
Yeah, no
to
problem.
do this. And yeah, I personally really liked Björn's interview because he just seems like he has been through a lot. He's worked with a lot of students in the past. He's taught multiple subjects. And now that he's the principal of the school, he has quite a few responsibilities that aren't the same as a regular teacher, but he still cares about the students in the IB, and it's quite clear. And I found it really nice to talk to him. He was very, very sweet, and both the teachers were absolutely amazing, and I hope that you guys also thought that, because genuinely, it was a little scary as well. I'm personally not the best at talking to people, and this was definitely a challenge. So thank you guys for tuning in and for listening to this. It has been a great pleasure to talk to all of the teachers and to interview them. And in the second episode, you will hear my boss, or well, the actual host of the IB podcast, talk to 2 more teachers. It has been the plan all along, so hopefully that will be the case, and then you have another episode to look forward to. But for now, please give this one some love, subscribe, like it, and Soso is signing off.